You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you.
I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon. The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us.
Hello, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday, happy Mercury day, and happy full moon in Libra. In today's episode, in today's forecast, we're going to talk about all of the astrological energy because there are a few major transits playing out today as well. And we'll talk about what's going on with this full moon, why there's such healing potential involved with it. And then I'll take you through each rising sign and explain where the full moon is showing up in your chart. So get comfortable, say hey if you're joining me live. And if you don't already have a copy of your birth chart, I encourage you to go grab one for free at thespiritualjournalist.com/birth chart. Light is a little bright. And see where the full moon is showing up for you. And I'll explain how to find out in just a little bit. So say hey, let me know how the energy is feeling for you. Corby is here. Hello. Hi, Rose. Hey, Nick. Anytime we have a full moon, the energy is amplified. And our emotions, because the moon rules our emotions tend to be amplified as well. So I'm curious if you're feeling that energy or if it just feels like a normal day for you. Of course, where the full moon is showing up in your chart will play into that as well. Let's get a current check on the energy. Anytime we have a full moon, the sun and moon are going to be in opposite signs. That's why the moon is fully illuminated, because the sun is shining directly across from it. So you can see the chart for the full moon tonight. I just went ahead and got right to the moment. The moon is full, but the moon is in Libra. The sun is in Aries. You'll notice what's very close by the sun. We've got a few connections it's making that we'll talk about. And in general, the big theme you're going to hear about this full moon is this polarity, this opposition between ourself and others, because the sun is in Aries, the sign of the self. The moon is in Libra, the sign associated with relationships, how we relate to others, our partnerships, our friendships. So not just romantic relationships, but any sort of one-on-one connection is going to be illuminated under this full moon. So I'm going to start actually with the other transits that are playing out, because I think they'll provide some nice background info, and then we'll get into the full moon, which is exact tonight around 9:30 p.m. Pacific time, so right around midnight Eastern time. Corby says, it's a beautiful day. Definitely Libra vibes. The journals are already live on Amazon. Oh my goodness. Can I be the first to buy one? Please send the link. I am so excited for you. What a powerful day to release them to the world, right? I know you still are doing a full launch, but that is amazing. I love how the full moon is hitting your 12th house too. And oftentimes the 12th house is about like shedding, releasing, letting go, endings, closure. But I think this is a really beautiful example as the full moon is showing up in Corby's chart. And we've been along the ride with her as she's been creating these dream journals and getting ready to launch these dream journals, that sometimes the end of a chapter can be really beautiful and fulfilling. So of course, the end of one chapter, the beginning of another. How amazing. Yes, we want to buy a journal. Please send the link. Normal day for Rose. Full moon's in her 5th house. Okay. Encouraging to just have a little fun today. Nick says a bit rushed this morning with a lot to do. Things have winded down. Have to get a nap before friends come over to hang out tonight. A full moon party. We love that. All right. Yes, please post the link. Okay. So I want to start with what's going on with Mercury. Actually, it is Mercury Day after all. Mercury in Taurus is forming a sextile to Saturn in Pisces. So we can see that on the chart here, that dark blue line between Mercury at 3 degrees of Taurus and Saturn at 3 degrees of Pisces. Because it's a full moon, because of the other transits playing out, I will say this isn't something that will probably be at the forefront of our awareness, but Mercury forming a sextile to Saturn can give us this ability to concentrate, to think responsibly. Mercury ruling our mental state and how we communicate. With Saturn on the other end of this sextile, we have this natural authority. Maybe it's a great day to negotiate. We're also able to understand lessons more easily, with Saturn being the planet that teaches us lessons, often in a harsh way. So it's like we can be the teacher or the student or both with this sextile between Mercury and Saturn. How are you here to share and teach what you know and what you're an authority on? And also, where are there other authorities in other realms in your life that maybe you can learn from, especially as relationships are the focus of this full moon? This transit playing out at the same time with Mercury and Saturn is really allowing us to pull those lessons more easily that we're learning in relationships, because ultimately relationships, romantic and otherwise, are often our biggest teachers. There could be a little bit of seriousness here, especially with Mercury in the earth sign of Taurus. It's very practical. It's solid. So there's this seriousness of our mental state, but ultimately what this sextile is asking us to do is to keep it real. A reminder with the moon in Libra that we can keep it real and be gentle and be kind and be peaceful at the same time. I think sometimes when we say like, oh, we're keeping it real, it feels harsh, but the Libra moon can kind of soften this energy. Now, Saturn is in Pisces, and Saturn has only been in Pisces for, as you can see, 3 degrees now. Every time I'm writing a transit or forecasting a transit that involves Saturn and Pisces, I'm like, this is such an interesting dynamic, because Saturn is so logical and practical and grounded and stern, and Pisces is like flowy and soft and imaginative and intuitive. So how I see Saturn and Pisces playing into this is that, yes, we have a lot of discernment under this aspect, under this sextile between Mercury and Saturn, but our intuition is carrying some weight as well here with Saturn and Pisces. Our sixth sense of just knowing something, it's almost as if Saturn and Pisces gives our sixth sense another element of authority, like it legitimizes that sixth sense a little bit more. So there's just an energy of wanting to make sense of things today, wanting to be practical, and maybe pulling some lessons from whatever is being illuminated under this full moon. Full moon's conjunct my south node, major releasing energy for you, Rose, but that means the sun should be conjunct your north node, right? So that's pretty exciting. I like that for you. It's definitely a fated moment if this full moon is landing on your north and south nodes. Full moon through your 11th house, perfect night to invite some friends over. Hi, Allison. Happy to have you here. Saturn in the 6th house, went to the dentist today, dealing with boring health stuff. That sounds about right. Hopefully it went well. So that's what's going on in the background. And actually that transit was exacted about 9:20 this morning, Pacific time. So about noon Eastern time. Maybe you had just more concentration this morning. Hopefully that's how this sextile between Mercury and Saturn showed up for you. The ability to really just hone in on your mental state and get stuff done. Okay, The next transit we're talking about is playing into this full moon in a big way. It's what is differentiating this full moon in Libra, also known as the pink full moon, right? The full pink moon, the pink full moon. It's a pink moon, okay? Which, you know, I love. I mean, look at the stream. But what's happening at the same time is really differentiating it from a normal full moon. And that's the fact that today the sun is conjunct Chiron. So again, I will pull up the chart and you can see the sun and Chiron. The sun will have just passed over Chiron as the moon becomes full. So this transit happens once a year, the sun meeting up with Chiron. And for those of you who maybe are newer to astrology, just a brief overview of Chiron. Chiron is an icy outer body in the asteroid belt known as the Wounded Healer. And Chiron gets its name from mythology. There's a story of Chiron. I can never remember if he was a man or a god, but essentially this being who had this wound he wanted to heal, and he could never heal it. So he was constantly searching out new healing modalities to try to heal himself, becoming a master healer in the process. And essentially he was the healer anybody went to when they needed to figure out how to heal themselves. Chiron in astrology doesn't necessarily mean where it shows up in your chart as somewhere you'll never be healed, or if it shows up in the forecast, it's like this gaping wound. Chiron is represented by the key on our birth charts, and that's because Chiron is the key that unlocks our healing. But it's also the reminder that we have to have awareness of the wound in order to heal it. So as the sun meets up with Chiron in Aries, and by the way, Chiron has been in Aries for a long time. It's only about halfway through its transit in Aries. And Aries being the first sign, the sign of the child, a lot of inner child healing and wounding has come up over the past couple of years. It's no surprise that the collective is talking about the inner child and healing the inner child, right? So as the sun meets up with Chiron, it's essentially highlighting or illuminating our deepest wounds, but also our healing journey. So noticing today, maybe tonight during the full moon, if there's some wounding that's coming up for you. And if it does, yes, emotions are heightened under a full moon, so it might feel really big and uncomfortable. But if wounding or awareness of a wound does arise, this is a beautiful opportunity under this full moon to find healing here, maybe even to find a little bit of release of whatever you've been gripping onto or whatever wound has been plaguing you for however long. It's definitely giving triggers also. Like triggers are possible throughout the day, especially because very early this morning, I think 1 a.m., so overnight, the full moon squared Mars. That's the energy we woke up under. So that's the energy we're feeling for most of the day. The full moon's not making any other connections until late tonight when it's actually full. And yeah, triggers could pop up throughout the day. Irritability could pop up. And as the full moon is in the sign of relationships and really illuminating our relationships, this transit, I believe there are no coincidences that the sun is meeting up with Chiron during this full moon. This transit is that reminder that our closest relationships are mirrors of what is unhealed within us, are mirrors of us in all ways. But there's a reason that oftentimes wounding comes up in our closest relationships when we feel safe and secure enough to really express who we truly are. And then the person on the other end of a relationship becomes the mirror of that expression. So a few things here. If you're noticing someone is irritating you, they're triggering you, try, if you can, to see that person as a mirror of yourself, to see those qualities mirrored back in you. Oh, I do that too sometimes. Oh, I've been there on my journey, you know, like using the mirror in order to give other people a little more grace, but also noticing how do I say this best? Noticing if you're projecting things onto that mirror, right? Like, oh, they're so annoying. But it's like, am I doing the same thing right now? You know, seeing anybody across from a relationship from you as a mirror can be really powerful, especially with this Chiron transit. If wounding does come up, are you expecting the person on the other end of that relationship to magically heal you? Because that's not going to happen, right? That's not how healing works. Chiron and Aries really asks us how we can heal ourselves, right? Aries, the sign of the self. I'm having like issues talking today. On top of Chiron illuminating our inner child wounding, it's also been this huge surgence of self-healing. I mean, even the holistic psychologist has a whole community of people called self-healers. So Chiron and Aries, this extended transit that we're right in the middle of, is like inner child wounding, self-healing, all the things coming up around healing ourselves. And this full moon could be a powerful moment that illuminates something that still needs to be healed, or illuminates how far you've already come and how much potential there still is for growth. Can we still get our birth chart done if we don't know what time we were born? This is a great question, Allison. Yes, you can still have a reading done. You can still calculate your birth chart if you don't know what time you were born. You just won't know your rising sign, and the layout of the chart probably won't be accurate. If you have a general idea, like a couple hour window of what time you were born, that can be really helpful. If you don't know what time at all, there's still a lot of information you can learn just from looking at your birth chart and seeing how the planets are interacting with each other, where they are in the sky. It's just a little less nuanced and detailed about how those planets are showing up in different areas of your life. So hopefully that makes sense. In mythology, Chiron is a centaur. I did not know that. You learn something new every day. A great example of how relating to others can help us along our own healing journey, can illuminate new things for us. And under this full moon, it's a really beautiful time to give gratitude for those relationships and just be in relationships that fill you up. Reminds me of an old-fashioned skeleton key. Exactly. That's what it looks like, Chiron, on the birth chart. Terry says, mine is in Sagittarius with my sun. Interesting. So Chiron is probably harmonizing with your Chiron. They're both in fire signs. Same with the sun right now. There's a nice fiery dynamic playing out for you, Terry. Okay, so let's just get into what we all came here for. The full moon in Libra. It's at 16 degrees of Libra. So if you do have a copy of your birth chart, this is a great time to look at right smack dab in the middle of Libra. What house does that fall in your chart? And knowing where the full moon is showing up in your chart, what house it's in, can give you a little bit more information about what it's illuminating for you, what big themes it's bringing up in your life. If you don't have a copy of your birth chart, we'll get to the horoscopes in just a minute, and that should give you more information about how this full moon is affecting you. Yeah, so Allison, if you knew you were born sometime between 9 and noon, I might put in like 10:30, the middle point of that when you're calculating, and see how the chart shows up. And, you know, if you need assistance with that, you can always book a reading with me and we can go through it together. But I would start with 10:30 and see if that feels accurate for you. All right, full moon in Libra. Balance, balance, balance. The full moon in the sign of the scales, the sign of balance, the sign of harmony, the sign of beauty, and the sign of relationships. Anytime the moon is in Libra, I tell you all that it's an invitation to bounce your emotions off someone else, coming back to that mirror analogy. When you're expressing your emotion and someone is mirroring that back to you and responding to your emotion, notice how it feels coming back. Do I feel validated by this? Do I feel like this is a little intense? Is this person amplifying that as it's coming back to me? So just feeling into what it's like to share your emotions with someone else and how it feels when they respond or hold space. Do they validate? Do they argue? Noticing what that exchange feels like. And that's where wounding could come up, right? With Chiron conjunct the sun during this full moon. If we're not feeling heard, if we're not feeling validated, if we're not feeling like we're being well received, that can be really uncomfortable. And I think this full moon is a really powerful time to take stock of the balance of power in all of our relationships. Are you receiving as much as you're giving? Are you giving as much as you're receiving? Again, the moon is in the sign of relationships, the sun is in the sign of self. So there's this polarity we're working with, not just in romantic relationships. This isn't just about, oh, I'm always the one who does the dishes and my partner never does the dishes and it doesn't feel reciprocal, or I'm always the one sharing my emotions and they never like validate them. They just kind of brush them off. It doesn't feel reciprocal. It's about friendships too. You know, are you always the one trying to meet up with this friend, trying to make it happen? Or are they always the one reaching out to you? Is there some way you could find more balance, more give and take in that relationship? Same goes for business partnerships. Noticing, are you taking on a majority of the workload or are you passing off a majority of the workload to someone else? So almost picturing a scale for every individual relationship in your life and noticing, how does that scale land when you really tap into the energy of each relationship? Libra is also the sign of justice, equality. So this could be applied to a larger scale. Equality in general, equality in society, noticing how certain people are being treated. Is there fairness? Is there equality? How can you as an individual treat everyone else with kindness and help bring about more equality in the world? Not quite like Aquarius energy of being an activist for equality, but just noticing how your presence, your energy affects the overall balance of our entire ecosystem here on Earth. A reminder that your energy sends ripples out and touches everyone else on Earth, everyone else in the universe that we know of. You know, our energy is powerful. So are you showing up balanced? Are you showing up with gratitude? Are you showing up as the most harmonious, kind version of yourself? That energy will create more equality and harmony and balance among the world. Are you showing up carrying all of your stuff and putting that out into the world? That might tip the scales a little bit. That's not to say you're not allowed to have a bad day. It's not to say that everything is always love and light, but Libra energy does feel very much like a balance between the light and dark. It does feel like it will be easier to just see the beauty in life in general under the Libra full moon. If there's a sign most associated with beauty, it's definitely Libra. So it's like that beauty is illuminated, it's highlighted under this pink moon. And Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of pleasure, of love, of money, of beauty. So full permission under this full moon to experience pleasure, to experience what it's like to luxuriate in your own existence, to stop and smell the flowers, to lay on the earth, to really like harness the beauty of every moment that life has to offer. How can you seek out beauty in your life today? And if this is where balance comes into play as well. If you're seeking out beauty and you're noticing there's a dark cloud over you, or you're noticing that there's this thought that keeps playing in your mind that's distracting you from this beautiful life that we're living. If you're seeking out balance and you're noticing imbalanced thoughts coming up, the full moon is the culmination point. It's the tipping point. And after tonight, we begin our release for the next couple weeks. So whatever's coming up, whatever imbalances are being shown to you, either through mirroring and relationships to other people, in your pursuit of pleasure and beauty today, if you're noticing there are things holding you back from that, those things, those imbalances are being illuminated so they can be released after this full moon tonight. So what can you release to create more balance, to create more harmony in your life, in love, in relationships, maybe even in money a little bit too? I feel like the last message just in general about the Libra full moon is, again, Libra is a sign of the scales. And I always go like this, but it's like, how can you remain the stable center so everything else in your life just kind of teeters in a harmonious way? So there's no major topplings. How can you find that internal peace, that internal center, that internal stability and balance? Remembering that Libra is a cardinal sign. There is natural authority here. Cardinal signs are the leaders. They are the trailblazers. So I love when Libras step into their gentle, beautiful authority, because it's not like the cardinal signs are Libra, Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn. And like Aries and Capricorn, they want to be the boss. They're like, I am the leader. I'm showing up as the leader. Cancer is like, I'm the leader, but I'm a nurturing leader. I'm going to take care of you. Follow me. And Libra, to me, as I tap into Libra energy and as I understand Libra energy, I would love to hear if anybody else has their own insight. Libra to me is that gentle authority. Like, I'm going to show up balanced. I'm going to put out the frequency of harmony and love, and just notice the energy of the room shift around me. Notice the people who are drawn to me because they're like, that's beautiful. That's nice. I want to be in that energy. I want to be like her. It's like this very subtle sense of leadership. So how can you step into that for yourself? How can you find balance so you can emanate balance around you? And that's the full moon in Libra. Again, it's at 9:34 tonight. So a beautiful way to work with this full moon. I often like to give you all ritual tips if you're into doing a full moon ritual. You know, any full moon, you can charge your crystals, you can make moon water, I always love a gratitude practice around a full moon, because for thousands of years, our ancestors have celebrated under the full moon, celebrated their harvest, celebrated abundance. And this full moon feels like it would be a beautiful time to give gratitude for abundance, noticing flowers blooming all around you. That's why it's called the pink moon, because we're starting to see blossoms all around us. So just noticing the beauty around you is a beautiful way to give thanks for abundance in all forms. And I love the idea, if you are doing a ritual tonight, to grab a partner and do your ritual with a friend, do a ritual with your lover, with your child, anyone that you have that one-on-one connection with. Having other people around to witness and experience the ritual with you, I believe, will amplify the energy of gratitude, amplify the energy of reflection, and also help you to release. There's like that level of accountability. So yeah, grab a friend if you have one, or, you could even call a friend tonight as you're putting out your crystals to charge or putting out your moon water, but connect with another human being today, if at all possible. I know we all have at least one person out there that we can connect with. And if you're here, you're already doing that. So that's great. But yeah, there's a lot of magic in doing ritual with other people, being in relationship with other people in general. Samantha, Libra rising. Teresa, Libra rising too. Oh, we're going to get into what that means in just a moment. Our lead therapist at work is a Libra sun. He definitely is viewed as a gentle leader. He's always looking for ways to boost morale. I love that it's a man that you're referencing too, because Libra being the sign of the scales, there's that inherent duality and polarity that we're always tapping into. And I feel like there's a nice balance between masculine and feminine between Libra as well. Like, often people with heavy Libra energy have a nice relationship between their inner masculine and feminine, and like this nice, it's almost like the yin yang dynamic where the energies are just really balanced and working well together. Love that visual of balance. Denise says, balance isn't something I think about until I'm really off kilter. Going to be more thoughtful about balance going forward. And if you are watching this, Denise or anyone else, and you're like, oh, I haven't really been thinking about imbalances. Life has felt pretty balanced. Start there. Thank you, God, Goddess, Spirit, Universe, for allowing me to be in a state where I am balanced today, where I am the center of my own scales, where I can handle any weight fluctuations because I'm grounded, I'm solid. So giving thanks for the balance in your life, the balance between work and home, the balance between, even right now, we're coming off of the spring equinox, and we have about balanced light and dark. The sun and moon are out for about the same time right now. So we're experiencing seasonal balance right now too. I will listen to this video later. Okay, we'll be happy to have you back later, Nikki. Okay, now that we've chatted about the Libra full moon, I want to talk you through each rising sign. What does this full moon mean for you based on where it's showing up in your chart? I always encourage you to listen for your rising sign because the rising sign sets up our entire chart. It tells us where the moon will be in our individual charts. If you don't know your rising sign, you can find it by getting a free copy of your birth chart at thespiritualjournalist.com/birth chart. When you get your chart on any platform you use, look for the ASC or ascendant. It's just another word for rising. And if you still don't know your rising sign and you don't care to know your rising sign, listen for your sun sign. If it resonates, amazing. If it doesn't, leave it. See what does resonate. Okay? Okay. So we will start with our Libra risings. As a few of you just mentioned, you are a Libra rising. And that means that there's a good chance this full moon is in your first house today. Now, if you're a little more advanced, look at where 16 degrees of Libra falls, because there is a chance if you're a Libra rising that the moon's still hanging out in your 12th house. And that goes for any sign. Look at what house that the full moon is falling in. And I'll talk about each house as we go through the signs too. So back to our Libra risings. Good chance that this is falling in your first house. And we love a full moon in the first house, illuminating your sense of self. Especially as a Libra rising, you probably often show up in relationships with other people. You probably feel most comfortable being like, I'm here and so is my friend, so is my partner. A lot of your experience revolves around being in relationships, but for you under this full moon Libra rising, it's all about you. Okay? It's all about you. You can take the lead. You can be the authority while still remaining fair, while still remaining peaceful, coming back to that idea of gentle leadership. It's time for you to fully embody who you're meant to be, to step into the next version of your evolution. The universe is calling. All you have to do is pick up and show up and find your own center, find your own balance. But you're starting a whole new chapter of full moons over the next cycle, over the next year. So this is really a time to just be comfortable showing up, standing in your power, and embodying all that you are meant to be. I just love a full moon in the first house. This full moon also happens to be in my first house. So welcome, my friends who have the full moon in your first house. It is a great vibe. Yeah, so Terry, it will be in your first house. And now let's move on to Virgo risings. Again, Virgo risings, there is a chance that this full moon's still showing up in your first house like me. But if you're a Virgo rising, over the next 24 hours or so, the moon will be moving into your second house if it's not already there. And the second house is all about resources, physical abundance, income, the work we do to bring money in. And this full moon, a lot of the topics that are going to be coming up through these horoscopes, you guessed it, they're going to be around balance. But the idea of weighing what's important to you might come up under this full moon if you're a Virgo rising. It's illuminating our values. It's illuminating our physical possessions. So prioritizing, okay, I love this. I love this thing I own. I love how these values are showing up in my life. More of this, please. But if you're noticing there's an imbalance between what you're physically calling in, how you're making money, what you're prioritizing, and what's really important to you, this is the full moon to make that shift, to come into alignment. So by prioritizing, this is what I want to call more in. This is what's important to me. This is what I value. You're speaking out to the universe. More of this, please. And also, as we come into the releasing phase of the moon, this could bring up or illuminate what you are doing or what you are calling in that's not in alignment. And that's an invitation to release. Okay, that served me for a time. That served me for a season, for a reason. Now it's time to make physical space. Maybe it's like actually making physical space for what you do want to call in. And money could definitely be a big theme if you're a Virgo rising, weighing, how you're spending your time and if it feels fair and just how much you're getting paid for your time. That's something that could definitely come up for Virgo risings. We've not done Cap risings yet, Bailey, so just hang tight. All right, moving on to our Leo risings. This full moon is showing up in your third house. The third house is the house of communication, of learning, of friendships, actually sibling relationships, like peer-to-peer relationships. So Leo risings, don't be surprised if the conversations are flowing. You might be feeling especially chatty. New information, new insights could be coming in for you under this full moon. And as new information, new data is coming in, as you're collecting all of this, the invitation is to stay open and create space to process all of that data, to take in other people's points of view, because they could know something that balances you out a little bit more or brings a different perspective about justice, about equality, about peace. Those could be themes that are coming up in conversation too. So staying open to other people's points of view, definitely giving as much as you're taking in conversation and vice versa, making sure that just conversations themselves feel fair and balanced. And yeah, maybe journaling, using your brain, using your mind to process whatever emotions are coming up for you. Not Virgo rising, as you know, but still feeling that so strongly. Yeah, and that's, sometimes you're a Virgo sun, right? Sometimes our sun signs resonate quite a bit as well. Okay, moving on to Cancer risings. Cancer risings, this full moon is showing up in your fourth house, and Cancer actually rules the fourth house. So this energy should feel pretty normal for you or pretty easy to tap into. Home is where the heart is. Beauty is found in familiar places under this full moon for you, Cancer rising. So spending time at home, being with family can feel really good. The relationships you might be seeking or wanting to foster are probably going to be family relationships, your parents, your children, your grandparents, those generational relationships. But we talked about Chiron already, and I don't know about you, but Chiron definitely shows up in my family dynamics more than anything else. So if you're a Cancer rising and you are finding yourself wanting to be around family, know that sometimes being around family brings up our childhood wounding, our generational trauma, and that could become very apparent under this full moon. If that's happening, that is exactly what's supposed to be happening in your life right now. Remember that feeling is healing, and you're no stranger to feeling if you're a Cancer rising. Also, if you're a Cancer rising, you're ruled by the moon, so your emotions are probably at their peak during the full moon. If you're feeling wounding, if you're feeling any sort of hurt or generational family stuff coming up, asking, how can I create more peace for myself here? How can I heal myself here? Instead of, and I'm certainly guilty of this, Cancer rising or not, waiting for the people in your family to become who you want them to be, to heal their own wounds so you don't have to keep carrying those wounds. Remembering that healing yourself heals the generations, three generations behind you and 3 before you. So healing yourself heals your family line as well. Sometimes the people in our families just don't sign up for the same journey that we sign up for. So if wounding is coming up, I know I've spent a lot of time on Cancer risings, but the mother wound, definitely a big thing that could come up for you around this full moon. And that's okay. Whatever's coming up is supposed to be coming up. You've got this. You have the power to heal. Okay, moving on to Gemini risings. Life is meant to be fun, and there's a lot of beauty in fun. There can be a lot of healing and peace and balance in having fun. So if you're a Gemini rising, this full moon is showing up in your 5th house, the house of play, the house of passion. Let it be playful. Let it be silly. Let it be passionate. Let life just feel beautiful. This is that permission slip to let your hair down and go a little buck wild for just a little bit under the full moon. Keeping it balanced, keeping responsibility in mind, but our passions are illuminated. Creativity would be a really great way to work with this full moon if you're a Gemini rising, like letting it be messy, letting it be playful. Again, like creativity is very playful. It is very messy. And if you're feeling those passions, those urges, like, man, I used to just paint all the time, or even something as simple as like, remember we all used to color as kids? Most kids colored. And tap into your inner child, like play, color, paint, dance, run around like a maniac, like kids do. Especially if you're feeling intense emotions, par for the course around a full moon. Play is a powerful form of moving energy and release. As kids, we knew that inherently. We knew how to just let stuff out by running around the playground or hitting the tetherball or whatever. Find those outlets for yourself if you're a Gemini rising. And don't just do them under the full moon in your 5th house, but remember that these things that light you up for a reason, and they can be powerful tools to help you restore balance anytime you're feeling imbalanced, anytime you're feeling the stress, the chaos of the world around you. It's always okay to take a moment to play and release the grip of your analytical mind. And if you're a Gemini rising, you're ruled by Mercury, you know all about the grip of your analytical mind. Get into your body, let it be fun. All right, Taurus risings. This is a powerful full moon to take stock of your routine, your health, and just your day-to-day life. The full moon is in the 6th house for you, which is the house of health, wellness, routine, and pets. So those themes could be coming up around the full moon for you. And the phrase that came to mind when I was writing this horoscope was, there's beauty in the breakdown. Not necessarily the breakdown of our life crumbling, but the breakdown of our day. Like if you looked at each day as a timeline and you zoomed in to different moments on that timeline, like a viewer watching a movie, and you're able to fast forward and rewind and pause at different moments. Would those moments be beautiful? Would those moments be adding up to a beautiful life? Take notice of the small things you do every day that make your life more beautiful. Even something as simple as if you have like a ritual or a routine with your partner or with your child, if you write a note in their lunchbox, or always give your partner a kiss before you leave the house, or even with your pet, with this being in the 6th house, if you play ball with your pet or play with your pet every day. Are there moments sprinkled throughout your day that bring you joy, that bring more balance and beauty and harmony into your life? And if there aren't, what are we doing here? Okay, that's your homework. Incorporate them in your routine. But as you're becoming aware of those moments over the next few hours, maybe the next day or two, coming back to more of this, please. How can I incorporate more of those moments throughout my day? How can I, even if it's, for 5 minutes every couple hours, I pick up a little instrument. I'm doing this because sometimes I play a ukulele. I'm not good at it. I just do it for fun. How can you do little things like that just bring more beauty into your life? Pencil in more of those moments into your schedule, because life is supposed to be beautiful. It's not all work. If you're a Taurus rising, I know you know a thing or two about beauty and luxury, so pencil in more of those things into your day. Oh, another Libra rising. Yes, this full moon. I hope you're loving it. It's probably in your 1st house. Okay, moving on to our Aries risings. So Aries risings, the sun's in your 1st house, most likely, and you're probably feeling yourself. And if you're an Aries rising, you know a thing or two about yourself and who you are and what you're here to do and, your purpose. But this full moon is opposite your sun in your 7th house of relationships. And it's a huge reminder, Aries risings, that you don't have to do it alone. You're not here to just be a trailblazer on your own, a full-time independent. You are here to relate to other people. That is the stuff life is made of. Imagine if you were just on a planet by yourself your entire lifetime. That would be like torture. That would be terrible. So Aries risings, tap into the beauty of your relationships, tap into the value that comes from having other people in your life to hype you up, to support you, to help you, to bring in the gifts and the services that you cannot do on your own. There is power in numbers, there's power in relationships. And also, it's going to be especially potent for Aries risings to feel into the polarity of giving versus receiving, making time for yourself versus making time for others. Restoring that balance in your relationships is a big theme of this full moon for you. And it could mirror back to you your own healing. Are you blocking yourself from equality and reciprocity in relationships? Why is that? Chiron is probably in your first house. So if you're an Aries rising, healing is a big theme for you in this long season of your life. So how are your relationships mirroring back to you how you are showing up as an individual, and what value can you find from relating to others? Okay, Pisces risings. This full moon is in your 8th house, and the 8th house is the darkest, scariest, most intense house. Don't fear though. If you're a Pisces rising, you're probably used to having your head in the clouds a little bit, dreaming quite a bit. This full moon is an invitation to go deep. As above, so below. So yes, it's fun to be able to meditate and connect with everything out there above us, space, star seeds, all the woo-woo things, God, spirit, connecting with the ether. But this full moon brings you down into, again, what's below, the depths of yourself, the depths of your soul, finding that balance between your connection to spirit and your connection to your intuition, your connection to yourself. Finding balance between exterior and interior, between floating and dreaming and going deep and being introspective and self-aware is going to extend to every part of your life. Your relationships, your finances, your ambitions, everything in your life benefits when you have that relationship, that balance, I should say, between your connection to what is above and your connection to the ground below. So don't be afraid to get more intimate with yourself. This is a huge invitation to go to deeper depths. If you're a Pisces rising, are there fears that you're ignoring because you just want to be up in la la land? There's an imbalance there. Ignoring things can create imbalance, right? Like just checking out into a fantasy, there's an imbalance there when you're not rooted and grounded into this physical reality. So making sure you're finding your connection deep within. So, and that will also help you expand your mind even farther, dream even bigger when you know that you are deeply connected to yourself. And there's also an invitation with the moon and the sign of relationships to find deeper connections with other people that you're in relationship with, remembering that you can only connect with others as deeply as you're connected to yourself. You can only connect with others as deeply as you're connected to yourself. So yeah, you might have great relationships where you love to talk about like aliens and God and spirituality and movies and music and all these things that we connect with, but are you really connected to that other person's soul? Do you know their fears? Have you shared your own fears? Do you know their limiting beliefs? Can you call them on their shit? Can they call you on your shit? Those are the kinds of connections that want to be fostered for you under this full moon, Pisces risings. Moving on to our Aquarius risings. Love this full moon for you. If you're an Aquarius rising, the sky is the limit. It's in your 9th house. The 9th house is all about expansion and learning and publication. Allow your mind to expand. Allow your relationships to grow. This full moon feels like a potent opportunity for Aquarius risings to share everything they've learned, because again, the 9th house is all about publishing and sharing and teaching. So as you're drawn to relating to other people under this full moon, asking, can I share my perspective? actually asking for permission to share your perspective, right? Making sure there's that balance of, hey, if I share this thing, is this person even open to receiving, or am I just going to waste my energy? But sharing what you've learned, also just sharing your abundance. Again, the full moon is a time of abundance. So generosity is a powerful practice for you, Aquarius risings, under this full moon. Random acts of kindness would be super fun under the full moon or over the next couple days if you're an Aquarius rising. How can you reflect on all the beauty and harmony that you've cultivated, all the ways you've grown over the past cycle, and then share that with others? You might also feel like doing something big under this full moon, booking a trip, enrolling in a course. This is about expanding the mind and higher level thinking, higher level learning with the full moon in your 9th house. So yeah, you might, again, find yourself like, ooh, I want to like book that trip. Maybe with a friend under the Libra full moon, maybe with your partner. Maybe you are asking yourself, yes, if you're an Aquarius rising, being an individual is probably very important to you. So yes, I want to grow and expand, but how can you bring others along the ride with you? Sharing in that abundance. Let's go on this trip together. Let's enroll in this course together. Having someone to share the experience of growth with makes it even more rich. Yes, Diane, such a beautiful time. So much in your life is aligning. We love to see that. All right, Bailey, it's your turn. Capricorn risings are next. Capricorn risings, this full moon is one of those moons that is, again, going to feel kind of comfortable for you because it's in your 10th house, and the 10th house is ruled by Capricorn. So if you're a Capricorn rising, the full moon is illuminating your long-term goals, your career goals. But it's the reminder with the moon in the sign of the scales, the sign of balance, that balance is essential for sustainable growth. If you go too hard, if you go too fast, you're going to burn yourself out. So it's a reminder, this full moon, to review your values, take stock of your assets, just to recalibrate a little bit, find your center again. It's as if you're climbing a mountain. If you're hobbling on one leg all the way up the mountain, you're not going to get there as fast. You might actually hurt yourself even more. But if you can find solid ground with both feet and find your center, it's going to be a lot easier to ascend and hit the marks you want to hit along the way up. Can partners or friends help you along your path to success as well with this full moon in the sign of relationships? Are you carrying all the weight for the entire crew that's climbing this mountain? Can you disperse some of the things in your backpack to make it a little easier for you? And like, how can you partner with other people to find success, to get closer to your long-term goals? Maybe even faster. So a reminder that partnership is a valuable tool along the path to success. Maybe not just offloading, I know we talked about like the analogy of climbing the mountain, but offloading some responsibilities. If you're a Capricorn rising, are you taking on all of the responsibility for the whole crew, for everyone in a relationship? So this might have a lot to do with like interpersonal relationships that are involved in your long-term goals, business partnerships, romantic relationships. Are you carrying all the weight? Are you carrying all the responsibility for making those relationships work? How can you offload some of that responsibility? Now, that doesn't mean project it or dump it onto someone else, but it might mean saying like, hey, can we revisit our roles here and how we can best work together so we can get to where we want to go faster? Because I'm kind of burning out here, and I'm not going to be of any use if I fall all the way down the mountain, right? How can partnerships help you get to where you want to go? Is it fair? Is it equal? Is it balanced? All right, Sagittarius risings. For you under this full moon, connection is abundance. The Libra full moon is in your house of community, the 11th house of your network. So noticing what friendships feel balanced and reciprocal, what communities you feel like you are receiving as much as you're giving in. If any friendships or connections in your community are feeling draining or uneven, or like you're giving and giving and giving, which probably feels natural for you if you're a Sagittarius rising, might be time to cut it off. Might be time to maybe not totally cancel the relationship, but just pull back your energy a little bit. Like, okay, I've been showing up a lot and giving and giving and giving to this community, to this relationship, and now I'm feeling like I want to just take some time for myself. Or, wow, I feel like I'm getting so much out of this community. There's so much to learn. There's so many people I want to meet. There's so much that I feel like I can contribute. Finding yourself drawn to and feeding those communities, those connections a little more. So in simple terms, celebrate the people and the communities that make your life more beautiful, that add value to your life, and that you feel like you can add value in as well, where you can be celebrated just as much as you are celebrating others. And as we come into the releasing phase of the moon, if there's a network or community that's like, gosh, this is just not feeling good right now, pulling your energy back from it for the time being, or maybe for good. Only you will know. Okay, and last but not least, our Scorpio risings. This full moon is in your 12th house. Now, Scorpio risings. I love that Corby, who is one of our regulars, is a Scorpio rising, and we talked a little bit ago, if you were still here, about how this is like a culminating point for her, almost the end of a chapter. She just released something. So I want to use that and revisit that as an example of a lot of times when we talk about the 12th house, the last house, which the full moon is showing up in for Scorpio risings. It's all about releasing and shedding and letting go and healing and closure. There's a lot of introspection. And it's funny that I wrote this because this could totally apply for Corby's situation too. Letting go can be daunting, but there's beauty and balance on the other side of release. So maybe you're releasing something and you're finishing something, you're publishing it or sending it in, or you're finishing a project. There's beauty on the other end of like, okay, there's nothing else I can do here. I'm giving it away, letting go, letting God, and we'll see what happens. I can't add anything more to this. I can't take anything more from it. It's done, right? That's kind of the energy that I think Corby is channeling just based on what she shared. But when the moon's in our 12th house, especially a full moon, it can bring up a lot of really sensitive emotions too. So it is an invitation to slow down and allow God, Goddess, Spirit, Universe to show you the next steps, to surrender the need to know exactly what's coming next. The 12th house is all about trust and, again, giving it over to God. So trusting that by putting your faith in a plan and a power greater than your understanding, that everything else will sort of fall into place moving forward. But it is a moment to just kind of pause, chill, have a cocoon moment, go within, process, heal, shed, release, tears, totally normal if you're a Scorpio rising. Yes, you might be crying behind closed doors and not letting anybody see the sensitivities that are coming up if you're a Scorpio rising, but give yourself that moment to release, to shed, to let the emotions flow under this full moon. Corby says, this is the end of me being on the shelf and putting my creative life on pause. The end of a chapter. And yes, there's nothing else I can do other than launch it. Coming out of retirement and into full bloom. And I just have to say for you, Corby, perfect timing, because the next full moon will be a lunar eclipse in Scorpio, the last eclipse on the Taurus Scorpio axis. Like, oh, I have chills just thinking about the timing of all of this. And I love that you use the term coming into full bloom, because full bloom is a perfect way to describe this Libra full moon, this pink moon that represents flowers blooming all around us. So I love that term because it's something we can all take something from. How can we bloom into our fullest expression? Is there anything out of balance that's not allowing us to fully bloom? There's something we can all take from that visualization as well. All right, so those are all the horoscopes for each sign. If you came in late, I will add markers to the timeline a little later today, so you can just jump to your own horoscope, or you can always see them at the bottom of today's forecast, spiritualjournalist.com/ daily astrology. We are going to finish up with a card pull to see what other message is coming through for this full moon tonight in Libra. And you know, I've got to use the Rose Oracle for the Libra full moon, tapping into the energy of blooming and the pink moon. We've got to use the pink deck, right? This is your opportunity to ask any final questions, share any final insights about the Libra full moon, how it's showing up for you. Maybe if you're doing a ritual tonight and you'd like to share that with everybody. As I shuffle up, I have not been doing rituals for a while. I haven't done a full moon ritual in a long time. I just haven't really been feeling like doing it. Maybe it's because it's cold and I don't want to go outside. That's a good option of why I haven't been doing it. But I'm really feeling like tonight I want to work with this full moon. Maybe it's because it's in my first house and I'm finally feeling like coming back out into the world again. Who knows? But I will definitely be charging some crystals, making some moon water tonight. Of course, Corby. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate how you show up too. There's so much wisdom that you offer us through the chat. And seriously, I'm so excited to get my hands on one of your journals. Can't wait to start uncovering the deeper meaning of my dreams. Okay. Also, can we just one more thing about Corby, because we love Corby. The fact that you launched or that you like released a dream journal when the full moon is in your 12th house, the house of dreams. Can we just take a moment for that synchronicity? So cool. All right. Let's all take one nice, big, deep breath together. That's another thing. Working with the element of air during your full moon rituals could be very helpful. So breath work would be powerful because Libra is an air sign, or just simply, you know, taking a few moments to deep breathe as you're under the full moon, breathing in the air around you, feeling the wind on your face, giving some air hugs, another way to tap into the element of air. Love that too. Okay. Let's take a nice deep breath and see what message wants to come through. Exhaling and releasing light, sending good energy into the cards, asking God, Goddess, Spirit, Universe, what do we need to know? Here we go. Breathing in, holding, and release. What do we need to know? Release the petals is the card that came in. Transformation, death and rebirth, shedding, all change. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Here is the message. Release the petals. There comes a point where we can't go back. In a seemingly fleeting moment, the road that led us here is suddenly impossible to access. There's a sinking knowing that things will never be the same. A death, a birth, a loss, a growth, an ending, a discovery. No matter how hard you try, things are different now. You're different now. The world's different now. What's been seen can't be unseen. There's no going back. Something new beckons you forth. This is a card of change and transformation. Courage is required for the rebirth to happen. Abscission is the shedding of various parts of an organism, such as a plant dropping a leaf, flower, fruit, or seed. The rose hip knows, the phoenix does too, that we need to surrender what was to the earth to one day be transformed anew. We can grasp the petals of the past as the changing winds blow, but eventually we'll discover that change is coming. Change is near. Change is already here. And while what once was is no longer, and what soon will be is not yet, it's time to release your petals to the wind with wild abandon for the chance to begin again, to offer what once was to the wind and let it nourish the seeds within. It's time to surrender so the transformation can happen. Had the rose not released its petals, the rose hip would not have come to be. When we gather the courage to release what was, we're greeted by the fruits of the future. What are you clinging to for fear of nothing coming to take its place? What are you clinging to for fear of nothing coming to take its place? Whew. That was a powerful message. This could certainly show up in relationships. It could certainly play into the balance or imbalances that we're experiencing under the Libra full moon. What could you release to find more balance in your life, to find more beauty, to create more space for new growth? I just got the visual of a rose that needs to release its petals, that's being weighed down, coming back into the balancing act, the scales. And once it finally releases, it can kind of spring back up and find its stem, find its center again, so it can start blooming anew. Transformation, death and rebirth, shedding, all change. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, everyone. Such a good card. Yeah. The accuracy, the alignment is so real. I love that. Well, this was a beautiful opportunity to connect with you, to chat with you all about the energy of this Libra full moon tonight, feeling all the love, all the beauty. And I hope this live stream, this forecast left you with a little taste of the beauty and love that's available to you in this world, in this lifetime, in this very moment. You always have the love of your own heart to light the way. This is exactly where I'm at and what I'm struggling with. And this message was meant for you, Jackie. Yes, I love this rose. Happy full moon. Enjoy the flowers. Yeah, bringing beauty into your life through like flowers or crystals could be a really powerful practice under this full moon too. Maybe making a grid with crystals and flowers, making life more beautiful and giving yourself something beautiful to witness. Sending love to you. All right, that's going to do it for me. I am just in awe of each and every one of you who continue to show up for yourselves, who continue to show up for this community. I'm so grateful to have you here, and I'm excited to chat with you more. Hopefully tomorrow. We'll see. Life's been a little crazy, but we have some more transits. They never stop, right? So we'll hopefully chat tomorrow about the energy. I'll keep you all posted. And I hope that you have a beautiful experience under the full moon. Wow, this was the full moon, first full moon I ever wrote about in my life book. Powerful moment, Jackie. I love that. Thank you, Corby. I just love you all. Okay, with that, I will see you when I see you next. But until then, stay curious. Thank you so much for joining us and aligning with the energy of the universe today. If you enjoyed this morning's episode of Transits Today, you can join our live astrology discussion every weekday morning right here wherever you're watching. And head to thespiritualjournalist.com to read your daily astrology forecast and browse the Spiritual Shop. The most fun way to help keep these forecasts free and support more content like this is to buy yourself a little something on our website. But if you're feeling extra generous, you can also buy me a coffee to fuel future live streams. Just tap the link in the description or head to buymeacoffee.com and search The Spiritual Journalist. And speaking of, you can also tune in to The Spiritual Journalist, our weekly live interview where we ask our guests questions about everything from crystals and manifestation to mental health and the environment. Those conversations stream live right here wherever you're watching now every Tuesday. I'm so grateful you found us here, and I can't wait for our next conversation.